Good evening, folks. Robert Scott Perry, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I'm a write-in candidate to replace Jack Reed for U.S. Senate. In fact, I even tried to make it a little easier to explain today, that I'm sure I'll do better in the past. Let's see if we can get this lined up. See, Federal Senate. He calls himself Jack, so we know him as Jack Reed, but his name is actually John. I don't know why, but John Reed. What I want you to do is ignore him, and I want you to fill in this little arrow thing. I'm going to fill in the arrow for you that points to me. You see, I'm Robert Perry. I would like to replace Jack Reed. Now, let me tell you why. If you're 18, or if you're a parent, or even if you're just a good person, Rhode Islander, I have to tell you this story. I have to. There was this thing, this 9/11, right? We had this attack by these terrorists who we trained to fight the Russians. Jack Reed's a military man. We've been wasting our money on him for like 3 decades, paying him to work in the Senate. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars we've wasted on this man because of his military knowledge, and yet his military knowledge led us to train terrorists who then attacked us on 9/11. But that supposedly made him smart. His other thing was that he believed in this massive buildup of arms, of these big weapons that could blow things up. And it turns out that we can blow up anything we want. And we did that in Iraq. In fact, oh, by the way, Iraq didn't invade us on 9/11 or attack us. It was Saudi Arabians that attacked us. Instead, and they trained in Afghanistan, instead we attacked Iraq, which had nothing to do with it, and we also attacked Afghanistan where they trained. It was good. But Jack, you were there. Why didn't you tell them, you're being stupid, don't do this? No, you didn't say that. You just said, you're spending more money for my military-industrial mafia, so I'll let you do this stupid thing. Right. Now let me tell you what I think Jack did that was so stupid, while you wasted your money sending him to the Senate. Because you kids joined up to fight after 9/11 out of patriotism, out of belief in your country, or maybe out of financial need. Okay? Or maybe because it was your life's dream to be a soldier. Whatever reason, you thought you were fighting for a good country with some kind of character, with some kind of purpose. Our purpose was democracy. The proof of our character was that we supported human rights. Instead, we went to Iraq and we ignored our own constitution. Never mind the Geneva Convention, which I can't explain right now, but which I'm sure you mostly understand. We ignored our own constitution and we tortured Iraqi men. We piled them naked one on top of the other. That's male soldiers, female soldiers. Your kids were taught to zap the genitals of Iraqi men to get them to tell anything. Because if you zap somebody in those places, you're going to get them to say anything. So we tortured people in Iraq. Jack never told us about it. He figured, they don't need to know. Why should we tell them? So, Jack, you failed when we invaded Iraq, and you didn't come and tell us before the next election. And you didn't. And you didn't. Okay, so you failed in that regard. Your job as a senator was oversight of the military, so even after Iraq was a big failure and Afghanistan dragged on for years, you still had nothing to tell us when George Bush's response was to erase our civil rights, which are also part of the Constitution, the ones that say that you have to have a trial before you lock someone up. You made a special rule after Bush was out. You, Jack, in your committee made a special rule called indefinite detention. I've mentioned this before, where you can not only go to jail without a trial, but you can go to jail forever without a trial, because Jack Reed thought it was a good idea to get rid of the Constitution after 9/11. So he went along with erasing the Constitution. The worst part for me still is that we sent you kids over there after 9/11 to fight a war we thought was the right war. It was the wrong war. And to fight in a way that we thought as a nation that we would be conducting as a civilized society. Instead, we tortured and we raped and we murdered the Iraqi people for no reason. They didn't attack us. And guess what? We didn't even do a good job, Jack. They're still fighting over there. Oh, but I suppose that's not your fault. Okay, fine. But, on the other hand, you didn't do any good. Go home, Jack. It's complicated now. You're old, you're burnt out, go home. Alright? Unless you, if we don't send Jack Reed home, the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to get attacked again, and we're going to have another war, and they're going to send your daughters and your sons to chop off the limbs of people in other countries, because that isn't against the law yet, under the NSA rules and the FBI or CIA and military rules that Jack agreed to, or at least his Senate committee did nothing to end. Because they did try to investigate the NSA, and it turns out the NSA owned the computers they were using and listened to every word. Jack, you've been fooled, you've been a failure, you spent all your time raising money, none of your time learning about the real problems. Because now I'm going to talk to you kids about what I think is the real problem. And your parents. If we don't stop using carbon-emitting fuels, the Earth will not be able to support human life within 20 or 30 years. So this is the end. This is it. I'm fighting this fight because if I don't start now and fight until I die, then when I do die, so do you. And I'm only 53. 20, 30 years, you guys are done. Done. There'll be no more Earth. Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. There'll be an Earth. There'll be no more humans. Human life will no longer be able to be supported by the ecosystem of this planet if we continue to spew carbon dioxide into the atmosphere the way we are now. And if we use nuclear power, we will have explosions like Fukushima, and we'll have waste like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island left behind that will never go away. Well, I'm sorry, in 30,000 years, 30,000 years, it won't be poisonous. It'll be too late. I want to go to the Senate because I want one senator to spend full time working to understand the world scientifically, socially, psychologically, medically. Somebody in the Senate itself has to actually do the work of understanding these things. And I'm not going to show any humility. I'm going to show it myself. I understand these things. Not because I studied it and came up with these great ideas, but because I can read. Okay? This thing I'm talking to, this computer, the way that I think we should run all our campaigns, straight up, no cash. Either you trust me or you don't trust me. Either you understand me or you don't. I don't ask any rich people. I don't go to any cocktail parties. I'm just putting it to you straight. It goes like this. Right now in the country, for us to go from where we are now to the point where we get rid of the nuclear power plants, the coal-fired power plants, the gas power plants, the oil power plants, none of them will survive, or we won't survive with any of them. So we have to get rid of all of them. But between today and when we get that done, we have to have our freedom, the freedom that the Constitution gave us. So, it goes like this. We have to put a camera on every police officer that can't be turned off, in every police car that cannot be turned off, in every jail cell, in every police station, in every part of any building where they can lock us up. We need a video record. Not because we don't trust you, but because we don't have to trust you. We have these machines, these computers, these cameras. In fact, a couple of months ago, quite a few months ago, we started to find out exactly how easy we can listen to, we can tape everything everyone says or does. Okay, the government told us after Ed Snowden let the cat out of the bag, that in fact we can store the data of everyone's telephone. So we certainly can store the data of every police officer. We have to do that to give us freedom to walk the streets and continue our natural democratic process of, campaigning and, maybe occasionally protesting or demonstrating our opinions about things without being shot and left in the street like a gentleman named Michael Brown was in Indiana. These things will continue to happen if we don't put cameras on every cop. Excuse me. Beyond that, we need to have a $15 minimum wage. Why? Because otherwise you're going to spend 80 hours a week working just to keep your head above water, and of course you won't have time to understand the things that it takes 80 hours a week to understand. The world is a complex place, so to even be a good voter, you have to have 20 hours a week, at least towards election time, to read up on the topics. You don't have time, because the wages are so low. Don't take my word for it. A guy named Thomas Piketty, an economist of 30 or 40 years fame, wrote a book just recently that said that the difference in the economy, the fact that, this many people make this much money and the rest of us make this much money, is screwing up the whole thing. Okay, we can't live like this. This is not the way the United States was set up to run. It was set up to run as a capitalist society so that you could make a fair run at making some money and putting some money aside for yourself. But that's not the way it's running. Instead, they buy people like Jack Reed. They send him to the Senate, and instead of spending his time studying and learning about what's going on today, what he does is he goes to cocktail parties, he asks people like the Koch brothers and all the other rich people for money. They give him money, and he votes however they want, including what he recently lied about. He lied about something that really bothers me. He said he is the leader in keeping the cost of college education low. Only college education prices are not low. So he led nothing. He didn't even lead the price that it's at now. As low as it is now, or as high as it is now, he didn't even bring it down to there. He might have been part of it, but he certainly wasn't a leader. And he talks about minimum wage, but he doesn't give us a number. We need to know how much. I say 15 because that's all I believe that the economy can take in one quick sweep. But we're owed that money as workers. I'm not asking for the money. I'm not demanding the money because I want to steal it from the rich people. It's because we deserve to get paid for the hours we work. And that's not the way it's going right now. Beyond that, everybody should pay the same level of Social Security tax. As it stands, you pay a certain percentage of Social Security tax up to $117,000. After $117,000, it doesn't matter if you make $10 million. You pay the same amount, not the same percentage. So that means you pay $2,000 if you make $117,000 a year, and you pay the same $2,000 a year if you make $1 million a year. It's unfair. It's impossible. If I go to Washington, I will change that. It's not fair. It can't go on like this. Okay? Jack, you're old. It's time to quit. You've taken enough money for doing absolutely nothing, for accomplishing absolutely nothing. All those jobs that you said that you brought here, they were already coming here. We have been building submarines and other military equipment since World War II. You didn't start that. You did a good job of voting yes when you were supposed to and no when you weren't supposed to. Unfortunately, you were being told how to vote. You didn't figure it out on your own. And I'm promising you that I will put every ounce of my intellect, every bit of thinking that I can do, into understanding what decisions we should make. I'm going to give one to you right now. I believe that Barack Obama, our president, should declare all fresh water that is underground as national monuments, so that no one can ever dirty the underground sources of clean water. Because if we continue to blast clean water, fresh water underground, to free the methane and the natural gas to float up, so the rich people can make money off the natural gas while they let the methane fly up there and dirty the atmosphere, we're going to die. If you don't understand that, Jack, you don't understand anything, and you don't belong in the Senate. I do. First Amendment. I love that one. Can you tell? I talk a lot. The Second Amendment. Don't like it so much, but you know what? It's there. It stays. I'll skip right to the Fourth Amendment for now, because the right to privacy is so important. It is so important to our freedom. And having lost it in the last 20 years, if I don't win this race, I will continue, and millions of us will continue to fight an electoral revolution, kill the end, to replace the Fourth Amendment, to give us all the right to privacy. That means that they have to get a warrant before they search you. We will get rid of indefinite detention. So they have to give us a lawyer and a trial before they put us in a tower, okay? Which is kind of medieval to me, but that's Jack Reed's idea of law. That he can point at somebody and say, that's a terrorist. He can tell. He can just tell. You don't need a lawyer. You don't need a trial. Jack Reed knows. Well, he doesn't know because he's not president, but he figures some old man like him, we happen to have a young one right now, Barack Obama, can just point to a guy and say, oh, I know that's a terrorist. Keep him in jail forever. That's not the country that I was born into. I'm not going to live like this. We need our Fourth Amendment back. We need to get rid of Jack Reed. Let's do it now. And Jack, with the commercials, stop lying. First of all, you almost killed Gina, for goodness sakes. You almost destroyed her career. At least Gina Raimondo is saying $10 an hour plus for a minimum wage. She is at least mostly a Democrat. You, on the other hand, did her no good in the election, and you're lying. You didn't lead the effort to keep college prices low. They're not low. You don't have any intention of raising the minimum wage to match inflation. You never said that. And that's the only way it's going to work. For one thing, we have to start out by grabbing a bunch right up front. $15 an hour, legalize marijuana, lift the cap on Social Security, put a camera on every cop. Let's stop screwing around. Send me to Washington. I'm ready. It'll take full time. I won't have time to come to your cocktail party. If you have a question, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on YouTube. And I'm here, 2368 East Main Road in Portsmouth. Write me a letter. Remember snail mail? I will answer. I want to do this for all of you, because all of you includes the people I love. And I can't just pick out a few people to take care of. That's the way it used to be. I'm sure that's the way Jack Reed thinks. Steal all the money from Rhode Island, take care of his family. I have this crazy idea that my job would be as senator to take care of everyone in this country. And in fact, my goal is to save the earth. To stop spewing carbon into the atmosphere. The one first thing that I truly understand. If we don't stop spewing carbon into the atmosphere, you children, 17, 18, 19, forget it. Your lives are done. Kids in their 20s, your children are going to die. People in their 40s, your grandchildren, you're going to have to explain. Why can't I breathe? Why is everybody dying? Because that's what's going to happen. I would like to save the earth, but my first job as Senate would be to protect us, citizens of the United States. The Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Third Amendment, the Fifth Amendment. We got plenty of amendments, and we got a new one, the 28th. That's why I'm doing it this way. Elections should not include money. Elections are about words and ideas. Vote for me, and I will take money out of elections completely. Thanks. November 4th. Be there.